Welcome, everyone. Joe with Range Me here, and we're going to do a little update on the Casey's Innovation Summit. So they just went through their selections from the second summit. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of recap the first one, see how those brands are doing. Then we're going to dive into a little update and a recap of the second summit. And to do that, I have three Casey's team members with me. So I have Chris Stewart, the VP of Merchandising, Lee Wilburn, the Senior Director of Packaged Beverages, and Phil Wilhelm, the Senior Director of Center Store. So thank you guys for joining us. And let's start off, Chris. Um, can you give us a quick overview of Casey's and any new updates for the company that have happened since the last time we spoke? I know you mentioned made to order wings were fairly new. I know you guys rock with the pizza business, so I'm curious to hear about the made to order wings and anything new that's happening with the company.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us back again, Joe. Nice to see you again. I'd say, since we last chatted, it's definitely been a busy 12 months for Casey. So, some exciting updates from our side. We closed on our largest acquisition ever back in November of 2024, 198 stores in Texas, Alabama, and Florida under the Cefco brand. Since then, we've integrated three of those stores to become Casey's, and we have plans for the balance of those to become Casey's over the next couple of years. So a lot of growth at Casey's. We're over 2,900 stores now in 19 states, and we've added 350 stores or so over the last 3 years. So exciting time for us here at Casey's, and we've also had some really strong results in the business as well. So we're excited to keep that momentum going, and the Innovation Summit and some of the new brands and ideas that provides for us we believe will allow us to continue to deliver the strong results that we have here over the longer term. So maybe just one other quick point. You talked about the made to order wings. So yeah, we launched those in Des Moines back in the Des Moines DMA back in January of this year, and excited to share that we are going to be expanding the program I can't tell you exactly how many stores. It's a trade secret, but yeah, the results have been really promising. It's providing incremental trips, incremental sales, and it really seems to be resonating in a lot of our smaller towns. So we're excited to bring that to more Casey's guests here over the next 12 months.
Awesome. Well, I'm a big fan of wings and a big fan of pizza, so it's a good combination to have. So 2024 was the first innovation summit that you did, and I know you listed almost 20 products. I think it was 19 products from that. How are those brands performing now that they've been on the shelves? They got a little bit of a track record.
Hey, Joe, I'll take the first part of that one from the center store perspective. So, again, thanks for letting us talk about the success we've had with our Innovation Summit. But from the center of store side, we hit the road running pretty quickly on this one as the category team looked at those particular products that fit the strategy that they were looking for. And so, we're a test and learn company, so we jumped on this one pretty quickly and tested some of the products that we had, as well as not only test some of them, but happened to line up with some planogram changes that we had. Again, that met the strategy that the category manager was looking for. So, in our first rollout, really, we looked at a lot of, snacks and meat snacks and some HBC companies. And, our meat snacks with Archer Meats, that immediately went into our planogram set because we knew that fit a segment that we were looking for. And so far, right now, we have two of their SKUs and we're selling it in about 2,600 stores. So again, just hitting the as fast as we can, knowing that some of these innovative items are what our guests are looking for. Again, a lot of testing. We had some popcorn manufacturers that helped us on our private label side. And we looked at this one, for example, Sweet Chaos popcorn, it's really coming from Kenny's Candy and Confections, but they're able to in three separate sales periods, May, June, September, October, and right now in November and December, come up with two SKUs that we really focus on our front feature end cap to show our guests that we have something completely different, and that company allowed us to showcase a popcorn category that's on fire right now for us and to have something differentiated. From a snack bar manufacturing standpoint, we looked at Magic Spoon, introduced two of those in our snack bar sets. Again, these are, basically our sets are big enough to roll across 2,600 stores. So from a testing perspective, we 12 of these vendors, we've done business with them. We're testing 6 of them. We rolled out 4 of them to the enterprise. We're still working with 2 on their capabilities and how they can meet our what we need to do from a manufacturing standpoint, and also get us through our food safety quality assurance review. So from my perspective, a great way to get some items that were not in our segment that we're selling perhaps like in the grocery segment, then again show differentiation to our guests that we have something different in KC stores that they may not be able to find somewhere else.
Awesome. So how do you work? How have you worked with these newer brands from the last summit to kind of ensure their success? I mean, there's a lot of
Yep.
hand holding for some, or were you some education or part of the test and learn process?
Yep. So the test and learn process, there's a couple of things that can work from that. Is some of them as simple as, hey, maybe we need to change the packaging to fit our peg hooks differently,
Mhm.
or what in the testing process, if we had a 2 for promotional strategy on those, did we have the right promotional rate that our guests were looking for to drive more volume on that? So
Mhm.
we did that, and then in between that, we showed them the power of what we have as inside of our business, which is with Casey's Access, and that just allows them to amplify their brands more with the equipment that we have in our stores. Our rewards platform, as well
Mhm.
as signage that we do inside of our stores with TVs and such like that. But again, there was a lot of conversation with them on how do we figure out to drive more units and more volume past the testing stage. And then we had some success with some of these, like one of them being Neuro Mints. Got a channel exclusive with them and really focused pretty hard on that one to show them that there is value with volume with them. And I guess, if the success means they want to continue to do business with us with additional SKU, then that was one of the things we found out with these guys. So again, it was just working with them, telling them what we can do to
Mhm.
amplify those brands, and then just continue to work and finesse from a testing standpoint. Once we roll out to the bigger rest of the enterprise, is it going to work for our stores?
That's
Yeah, and
great.
I'd maybe just add to we self-distribute. So as we think about route to market or getting product to our stores, to be able to work directly with Casey's, whether it's 100 stores, 1,000 stores, all 2,600, 2,900, we have the ability to support that rather than having to work through a third party,
Mhm.
wholesaler, etc. Which at times maybe it can make it more difficult to do things on a smaller scale. So
Mhm.
I just give kudos to both Phil and Lee and their teams on how they approached that. They were very methodical. They knew what they were looking for, and I think we've delivered on our commitments too to the supplier community and those that came and participated in the summit.
You bring up a great point, and the fact that you self-distribute, it almost lets you have, not almost, it kind of lets you have the flexibility that a small independent chain would have, and that you can move fast, you could try different things, and then see what works, and then expand it. But if you're dealing with through wholesalers, you usually don't have that flexibility. So I think that really lends itself to that whole test and learn, and really being able to start them off on the right foot.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think you never move as quickly as you'd like to, right? We still
Hmm.
have internal processes and things we need to work through. But at the end of the day, we're trying to be a little bit more progressive than maybe we have been
Hmm.
historically at Casey's, and trying to be on the front end of maybe some of the trends or emerging categories rather than necessarily a fast follower. So again, I just give kudos to Phil and their teams for identifying those opportunities and bringing them into our assortment and getting them in front of our guests here in the Midwest.
Yeah, and
Jim,
I'd add to that, Joe, on the
Yeah.
vault side of things, to speak to Phil's point of testing and learning,
Hmm.
a little bit different on the cooler side. I would say we also want to consider our Midwest footprint, because sometimes we have some things that might resonate, in the West Coast, East Coast, that quite have not hit the
Hmm.
Midwest. So going into it initially, I was really kind of thinking more through, is there some private brand items? Is there something we can kind of collaborate with somebody on bringing home? I was thinking like Spark Water, because right now Spark Water's toggles back and forth between 50-60% for us. And then you start to sit down with some folks, and you start to, wake up to some really differentiated products that are out there, and some of the innovation that we want to lean into. Like right now, everything is protein, right? That's so,
Hmm.
and they're adding protein to everything. And there's also some items, whether it's, a kombucha or a plant-based tea, that really you don't see throughout the Midwest. But can we get ahead of that
Hmm.
market and put something in front of our guests that's a differentiator, might make them turn right, into a Casey's? And then ultimately, I would say we really landed on 9 items, and it's always really insightful to see the test and learn, because you have these opinions and you think what you feel is going to resonate, and then you get surprised.
Yeah.
And I would call out so far, early on in our tests, Bones Coffee is one that has separated itself, which has been a surprise to me.
Wait, which one did you say?
It's called Bones Coffee,
Oh, okay.
and
Troy, my
they've
buddy
got
Troy.
quite a following online,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
and that's something that you can get ahead of, given that it's not in many of our C channel
Hmm.
competitors.
I had their shirt on this morning when I was working out.
There you go.
I've interviewed Troy Poniger, I think this past summer at our beverage session. So good guy, good, very interesting brand. So glad to hear that you're working with them. But that's great. It looks like it's a very methodical, deliberate way to ensure the success of those brands that you're working with, and use the market feedback, which is basically the final decider on what's going to succeed, right?
right.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say on our side, it's really what the guests are kind of seeking is on the
Hmm.
protein side, the caffeine, and obviously, additional private brand opportunities for us that we feel that we can fill an additional gap within our vault.
Yep. And now with this push with GLP-1s, everyone's talking about protein, 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 protein. But and then also
Mhm.
the gut. So like you mentioned the kombucha and stuff. I mean, all of
Yep.
that is going to be it's just picking up along with the GLP-1 use.
And we have an additional shelf this year in functional soda, so we'll be housing a whole row of prebiotic items this year.
Gotcha. Just wellness in general is just taking off. I mean, it was starting to take off before the pandemic. That I think the pandemic just accelerated it. And then you have people like me and my friends who are all in our 50s, and we're starting to take a look at longevity now. Like, what could I do now to make my 80s better? And more and more people that I'm seeing in my age group are thinking that way. So we're getting the healthier things. We're trying to make everything we put in our bodies count for something.
Well, if you got any tips, Joe, I'll take them. I'll add it to the tool
I
belt.
just try to stay as natural as possible, but protein is a big part of it, and things for the gut. So always looking at gut friendly stuff. So what was the focus and your goals of this year's summit?
Yeah, I think we definitely had some learnings from last year, Joe. I'd
Hmm.
say we pulled the timeline forward this year. Year one, the summit occurred in October. This year we pulled it forward to early August, knowing that the majority of our seasonal change reset activity happens in the spring. So it's making sure that as these products are identified, they can work into our kind of reset calendar. So that was one learning from year one, and then secondarily, I would share that I'd say this year, I think the team really honed in on opportunities, through the screening process in the first couple of phases, and really identified so that those folks who did come to visit us here in Ankeny, it was really just kind of, crossing the T's, dotting the I's around getting the product into our stores. I'd say we really narrowed the focus around the products that we wanted to add to our assortment. Year one, we probably cast the net maybe a little bit too wide in who we invited to Ankeny. So I think overall, and I'll let Phil and Lee elaborate as well, but I think we felt really good about the folks that came to see us here in person, and then the percentage of those folks are actually going to end up getting placed in our stores.
Yeah, Joe, I think the one thing about, the second year, we learned everything that we didn't do right the first year. And by the second year, the category managers worked within, our process here is to develop strategies for their categories, and they were locked and loaded on that from that standpoint. So they knew where that category needed to go, which helped them cull through the, through the list. Does that item meet the strategy on where they think that category is going? So that helped them as well, drive that down. And then, of course, that final cut is always based on the capability of the supplier, as well as the product attributes that they're looking for, right? It's got to taste good. I mean, there's an aspect of that standpoint. And then, then does the supplier have the ability to hit our kind of volume capabilities as well? So I think by the time they hit the final for us this year, that was a little bit different than the previous year, was that it was a time to showcase what we do here at Casey's and show them our capabilities, and not necessarily have them try to, by the time they hit us, we have a pretty good indication that we're probably, really leaning towards what they have offered us. And we just have to figure out some of the nuances of those things going forward. But again, it goes back to, what did the category managers have from a strategy standpoint? And did those suppliers or entrepreneurs have something that we believe that can push, again, that differentiation that we believe that we can show our guests that they're not getting anywhere else in our rest of the market?
Yeah, I'd add, Joe, that we kind of went into it with kind of a handful of questions that we were kind of looking for from the suppliers to kind of be aligned on what we're looking for. I didn't even have this down, but yes, Phil is 100% correct around the taste. That's definitely where it begins, no matter what kind of functionality you're adding to it. But we wanted to understand, if they've been dealing with other competitors, or what their market is, where they are in their venture. Can they really speak to their their revenue, R&D capabilities? Just trying to understand where they are in their own life cycle. And then, does it, at the end of the day, did it provide something differentiated to Casey's that we're not seeing out there? Is it filling that, functionality gap? And then just trying to, understand their route to market too, and their capabilities that, does it fit our footprint? And they ultimately, get it to our DCs, and so we can allocate out for them.
Gotcha. It sounds like this year you were a lot more focused. Actually, you're doing a test and learn on yourselves. Each time you do it, you kind of you'll get more refined in your focus. So I'm sure that made the process a lot easier. And so you're saying that by the time they showed up for the in-person get together, it was pretty much whittled down to the final ones.
Yeah, and really then that becomes the more pointed questions. Yeah. I mean, obviously, any supplier that comes in here believes that their product has the ability to sell. That's when we had these more pointed conversations and ongoing conversations past that meeting at the Store Sports Center. But it was more about, hey, let's really understand. You said you have the capabilities, but let's just make sure that you do have the capabilities. And then what our expectations were from a promotional support, and, to make it a success from day one, whether it is going to go into the set or it's going to be, in a 350 store test. That's approximately the group of stores that we test this stuff in. And then, just give them the expectations, right? It's not sometimes it's not the answer they want to hear, which is, yep, we're going to do it immediately with you guys, right? We're going to have a
Mhm.
methodical plan, but at the same time, we're also going to we have the flexibility to escalate that if we believe that on the life cycle of that product, if we're at the very beginning of it, we want to ride that wave on that thing going forward and make sure that if it's something new for our segment, we want to be the guys that are showcasing that high potential item for our segment as they transition out of perhaps the grocery segment or whatever smaller segment that they're in, right? It's like
Mhm.
we just want to be able to find the next new, you know, the next new thing that's out there that's going to helpful, drive those differentiation that I keep talking about as our guests. We want to surprise the guests when they come in, make
And
it
a
a
couple
good.
more things, Joe, that's a little bit different from Phil. We're always kind of looking on this side of we have a very successful rewards platform on our app, and we're approaching 10 million members. And our stores do a really good job of offering that every day. So we want to understand their capabilities of being able to invest in that so we can
Mhm.
promote their item as well. And also it's very advantageous to them if they can parlay their item with food,
Mhm.
since we are a food forward C channel.
Mhm. No, that's very important. And I think it's great that you're helping to manage their expectations. And there's something to be said about that in-person meeting too, right? You're going to be dealing with these people and building a relationship, and that in-person component, I think, is really important too.
Yeah, and I think on that front, Joe, we definitely had some learnings again from year one. I think we had a lot of folks that came in the first year, and we had a couple of category managers specifically who were very, very popular,
Hmm.
right? On Lee's side, particularly on like the non-carbonated beverages, and then on the snack side on Phil inside of Phil's group. So again, with fewer folks coming in to the in-person here back in August, they got to spend more time with the category
Hmm.
manager and Phil and Lee.
Hmm.
So it wasn't kind of this speed dating in and out in 20 minutes, 25 minutes. They had 45 minutes, an hour to sit down and, to Phil's point, kind of talk through things in more detail. And I would say at the end of those meetings, I think we're kind of aligned on the path forward between both the supplier partner and Casey. So I think, again, like you said, test and learn. We continue to want to get better and make it a better experience for our partners as well. So hopefully, I know those folks weren't part of year one coming to the session here in Ankeny, but hopefully, that time that they spent with us here, they saw as more valuable than maybe the folks that were here in year one.
Yep. And I think it's important too that it's for them to understand that this is just the beginning of that process, right? Now they may not end up on the shelves in the same format that they presented to you based on the feedback that you get during the process, correct?
Exactly.
Hmm.
You know, Lee mentioned private brand a couple of times. So
Hmm.
maybe initially the conversations around the national brand product, but then we understand they have capabilities and the
Hmm.
ability to develop a unique and differentiated private brand product for Casey's. So
Hmm.
again, those discussions occurred throughout the process, and
Hmm.
as you said, things can change as you go through. But at the end of the day, it's got to make sense for both sides.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm always advising brands to say you got to go into this with an open mind because something might come out of left field that actually works better for everybody. And but you're just not thinking of it now or at the beginning of the process. So you got to be open to letting it evolve to what's best for everybody. So the process this year for the second one was pretty much the same. Can you take me through it? Just the select. So it starts on Range Me, then you kind of evaluate from there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take that one. It
Sure.
it it was, you know, as we even got better on how we were supposed to, each category manager was supposed to select through their products, right?
Hmm.
There's a learning component of that one as well to make sure the right categories got to the right category manager as well. But again, that was the way in which they walked through that. So the selection process, I kind of touched on it before, was does it meet the strategy?
Hmm.
Um, it do they have the capability? And then again, that third one at the SSC, a little bit more about the exposure to,
Mhm.
the environment here at Casey's and what we can do for them, or what we say we're going to do.
Yep.
And then it's the other part is, how can we start that test or that rollout on a planogram from a promotional strategy, from a pricing strategy, especially what Lee talked about, the strategy within our rewards platform. And so those are kind of like the high level steps with, you know,
Mhm.
there was multiple conversations with the category team and those guys prior to them coming to this, the final visit to the Store Sports Center, as we all aligned on what we were looking for. But again, there is a methodical step that goes through that whole thing.
Mhm.
And then at the end, the decision on the product was, is it a differentiated product that we're going to be able to sell in our stores that's going to drive volume, incremental volume for us? And at the same time, you have to look in the future to say, if that's our strategy and that's our hypothesis on these items that this supplier can give us, then what potentially can they do from line
Mhm.
extensions going forward, right? It's not a one or two SKU thing.
Mhm.
If we believe that they can bring value in their brands, then how can they expand that past the original portfolio? So again, test and learn inside of um, having their products in there. So it's a never-ending project with them.
Yeah.
Until we it gets big enough, or there's only two avenues that these things can go, and we're looking to be the avenue that's going to drive business for both of us.
Wow, so you guys did a lot more work on the back end on this one. Not that you didn't do any work before, but it seems like you were very, very thorough and granular. So when those submissions, so basically, and it was the same format, right? They submitted through Range Me, and then your category managers would look through it, evaluate it, and then. But if I heard you correctly, you said you had some communications with the brands before that selection process, right?
Yeah, I mean, if there was
Okay,
any
yeah.
conversational stuff, they would needed to be like anything, just seeing something on the Range Me platform doesn't necessarily give you the flavor you're
Yep.
looking for. So, there could have been conversations with people that never made the final cut. But
Hmm.
again, there's that conversation that happens through there. And again, it just drives back to what they're looking for from a category standpoint towards their strategy. So
Gotcha. So how many brands were selected from this one? And can you tell us what type of brands? And I know you mentioned a couple in our email discussions that made the cut.
yeah, for me on my side, we looked at, you talked about protein of all
Hmm.
things. And so one of the things that interested us, so there's a, a, a protein pretzel that's out there. So kindling snacks, um, currently being tested right now, in our November, December sales plan in 290 stores. So far seeing some very decent numbers on that one. Again, we're going to see what happens over this 60-day sales period that we have. We also we were a little bit heavier on some snacking companies, like Love Corn was another one
Hmm.
that's already slated for a test in the early part of 2026 in our stores. Like Air was another
Hmm.
manufacturer that's already slated to be tested the first part of 2026 in a testing standpoint. And then, we had some work to do on some other folks on a bakery side that, didn't really meet some of the criteria that we were looking for. We still had conversations with them, but in the end, that was something we didn't do. And then we have another jerky manufacturer out there that we were looking at, and it's really about their capabilities and volume expectations from our standpoint, but clearly a quality product that we thought from a meat stick standpoint from our side. So again, these are all test and learns for us on this side, as
Hmm.
opposed to the first round where we had test and learns plus we had also immediate introductions to our planograms.
Gotcha, gotcha. Big fan of the love corn too. We had those at our center store sessions. I kept taking their samples to munch on throughout the whole. The red bags are my favorite. I forget which, but the ones in the red. Oh, I
Yeah,
love them.
barbecue probably. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and I actually interviewed Gavin as well. Good guy, but yeah, really good stuff. So now I had a couple of other questions, but you already kind of touched on those topics. But moving forward, what different categories are you expecting to cover on future summits? And is there anything different that you would do to improve on the next one?
I think
Yeah,
every,
I think, go ahead, man.
no, go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, I think on mine side, just when I talked about the gap that we don't really have in play today, is there a yerba that we can bring in that we don't currently have? Something that,
Oh, wait, your volume's going down a little bit. Can you guys hear him?
No, we can't hear him. I can't hear him either.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll jump in
Yep.
while Lee's figuring that one out. But when you said, what other categories are, all categories are open for us, right? Every category manager has a strategy deck and they've decided where they need to go and what's that white space they're looking for. So, as you well know on Range Me, that it isn't just selective to, chips and jerky, and it's the whole realm of everything we're looking for. So, there's nothing that's ever off limits for us. We're still going to look on up and down the category level on my side and continue to see if we can fill that white space that we're looking for.
So all center store categories for you.
That's correct.
Gotcha. And let's
And
see,
then-
Lee. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I would just chime in and add. I think as we think about to like the opportunity maybe to separate a couple of these work streams, one would be around private brand, potentially, and then we haven't really engaged our prepared food team in the innovation summit so far. We have we have a culinary team, an insights team, and that's a longer term planning process for us from the time a product's developed to when it hits our stores. But I think that's something too that we've had a lot of success with some of our national brand partners in products like cookies, where we've been able to partner and bring a product to life. So I think, is there a way for us to collaborate with some of these brands and potentially integrate into our prepared food business? That would be something too that again we might explore in a separate forum.
Gotcha. Would you also look for like ingredient manufacturers for the prepared food side?
Yes.
Gotcha. Because we got those on Range Me as well. So that would be very interesting to see how that works. Let's see. Is Lee's volume
I
back?
don't know. Is that
Yes, yes.
yes, good. There's like 7 microphones in here. I just figured I'd hit one until one worked. So just to go back to add on to Phil on my side, there could be a gap a little. We don't have a yerba mate. There's another weird beverage with weird tea that we're exploring. Also, kombucha is something that is a gap, but we have to just kind of figure out again, is that going to lend itself to our guests is what we kind of are looking for. I would say what's on tap is we brought in Spindrift to test because again, 50-60% up in spark water. We want to understand is increasing our assortment, is that going to add incrementality to the brand? And then innovative items like a Karma, where kind of like what moms have done with their kids with the little Mio water, where you can just press a button and it explores right in there the flavor into the water. So actually putting that into the vault and see if that resonates with our our guests as well.
Speaking of beverages and enhanced or functional beverages, we recently have seen such a surge of interest in THC beverages, right? We actually launched the session so at our on and off premise adult beverage in last year, there was one brand that offered THC beverages. This year there was 22. And it's just exploding. Nielsen was talking about it at their presentation during the session. I'm just curious what you're hearing in your markets, and that, or where do you think that might be going?
Yeah, I'll take that one. I would say this is one where we're probably going to be pretty conservative, Joe.
Hmm.
We don't play in that space, and we're really looking for federal regulation
Yeah.
before we probably step into that space. Certainly understand that some other retailers, even here locally, um, um, local Iowa retailers are playing in that space, but it hasn't been an area that we've decided to move into at this point.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've seen that too. Like more independent places, independent retailers, independent restaurants are doing it, but the chains are kind of taking that wait and see approach and see what happens with the regulations. So I was just curious, your thoughts on it. So, awesome. So final question to wrap up. Advice for brands looking to scale up and succeed based on your experience. What would it be?
I think they need to, come and ask every possible question you want to know, right? It's like understand what Casey's does or what the footprint is before you come in, right? Be as educated as possible as you can.
Hmm.
We're a publicly traded company, so there's the leg up that people can go out and read about us and see what our performance has been and ask those questions, and then then come prepared to you know basically throw the kitchen sink at us or allow us to throw the kitchen sink back at them and say, here's some of the things that we've seen to be successful as we roll these products out. In the end, the mutual agreement on this thing is let's just sell more stuff together, and understand that this isn't a one-way street when they come to Casey's. We want to make sure that both sides win, but understand that we are looking for some capability on the technology side with a rewards platform, as we see that that's incremental for us to drive more understanding of the product and drive more on that side. But again, be open-minded on the promotional side, right? The key to getting these items to sell in our stores is like, how do you get them to have a guest taste it first? And I think I'm going to give some credit to Love Corn. If you could give everything away for free, could you do it and then sell it? And they have the ability to give out small bags of
Hmm.
Love Corn as a sample to get people to try it, then go buy their product.
Hmm.
So just look at the category a different way. Think of as many ideas as you possibly can, and then we'd work collaboratively to try to drive their products the way they want to drive it as well as the way we want to drive it as well. So
That's awesome. That's a good point. I mean, there was some independent grocer I interviewed like 20 or 30 years ago. He told me this that I still remember today. He said one of the secrets to them doing so well is he said we're always shoving food into our customers' mouths all the time, sampling this, sampling that, sampling that. And it works. It works. Um, so Phil, I'm not Phil, Lee, any
Yeah.
final thoughts?
Yeah, I'd build with Phil, like on what he said. We want an equitable partnership. We want to understand what's important to you. And then on the same platform, just again, what, Phil alluded to is of understanding us, because on our rewards platform, again, that I would allude to, we have the ability to give items to our guests and to our team members. So not only are our guests trying it, but our team members will be able to speak to it, right? And I think that's important. But I always want to understand, I think one thing I would give advice on is tell us who you are. What's your culture? What's your sales and marketing strategy? Where do you want to sit, inside the vault? Because sometimes in conversations, I think there's an eagerness to just want to get in there. But
Hmm.
I'd like to understand, hey, where do you see yourself lying in the vault? Where will it sell best? Because ultimately, we just want door swings. We want increased guest counts and incrementality to the category.
Gotcha. Chris, you want to take it home?
Sure. I would just say, my advice is, to not lose the entrepreneurial spirit. I think, Casey started as one store, where our founder saw an opportunity in rural, small town Iowa that they weren't getting serviced or didn't have a convenience option. And Casey's was born, and now we've grown to, approaching 3,000 stores. I think, there'll be many folks that go through this process and don't end up landing in Casey stores or getting placed in our stores. And I would say, continue with that entrepreneurial mindset, build your sales story, be relentless, follow up with our team, be top of mind, and just don't give up just because if you missed out on one year in the Innovation Summit at Casey's. So we've thoroughly enjoyed the process. I love hearing some of the founder stories and just their passion for their businesses, and just again, they've gone through tough times, up and downs, and most brands end up failing, but we just love the entrepreneurial spirit, and hopefully we can play a role in their journey and help build that sales story. So we love talking about our success stories with brands and products that we launched out of this initiative. So just can't thank you guys for the support on this journey that we've been on together, and I know we're excited to make it bigger and better again for calendar 2026.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you all for working with us on this. It's great. We have 2 great ones already. Looking forward to seeing how this progresses over the years. So, Chris, Phil, Lee, thank you so much again for joining us.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Joe. Thanks for having us.